Home Slice Adulting, coming to you with my review for Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 10 Reunion Episode Part 3. It is finally the end of this season, and I don't think any of us are happier that it is over and that it ended with such a bang. Before we get started with this review, I would like to welcome my new subscribers, and if you are new to this channel, thank you for clicking on this video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I always tell people that at the end of the video, but that means that I'm assuming that you watched all the way to the end. And I know how YouTube viewers do, so, it's not safe for me to assume that you hear me say it at the end of the video. So I'm going to start saying it at the beginning. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I really appreciate all of the comments, good or bad, the likes, the dislikes. For me, it's just exposure, okay? But if any of you all are interested in how I straighten my natural hair, I've been natural for 7.5 years now. Yeah, 7.5 years now, and I straightened my hair a few days ago. You can check out a video that I did about the new blow dryer that I have that contributes a lot to how silky and shiny and whatnot and how my hair gets, so you can check that out. But let's just get into this review because there's a lot to talk about. Now, is anyone else so excited that we saw Kim get her booty handed to her? I'm happy about that. Kim caused a lot of trouble this season, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we are back where we were last time, and they're talking about the picture of Nene's car in the handicapped parking space. And so Nene does not care about Kim and Charade's friendship. Kim tried to make it seem like Nene was jealous that they have maintained a friendship while Kim and Nene have not, and Nene does not care. Nene doesn't understand why Kim is so focused on where her car was parked and asks if Kim is a meter maid, and she asks her, where is your scooter? With all the disabilities that you have, you should be in a handicapped parking spot, basically. So moving on, we focus on Charade and what little bit of a storyline she had this season. So I got a little chuckle when Andy said, yes, you can use my phone to call Tyrone. I thought that was funny. But apparently she's been with him for about 1.5 years, and she doesn't tell if they're having phone sex, which they probably are. She says that they are not engaged and that he did not help pay for Chateau Charade. So, what good is Tyrone? Shoot, if you're not getting none of those from him. But moving on, Charade says she's not worried about Tyrone conning her, even though he's in jail for conning people out of millions of dollars. That doesn't make sense, Charade, okay? But she did say that if Tyrone's appeal did not go through for him to be released early, that he would serve 2 more years instead of 4, because apparently when you're sentenced to 10 years, you only go to jail for 8. And I guess the other 2 are parole. I don't know. But she said that if he did not win the appeal, which he did not, that she would move on with her life because she's been waiting long enough. It's been 1.5 years, right? So, Charade is trying to appear like she has some kind of sense. But we'll have to see. I don't know, and I haven't heard anything about Charade breaking up with Tyrone now that we know that his appeal was denied. But we'll just have to see. But moving on, she did say that she has been on a couple dates while she has been, dating Tyrone. And it's like, oh, I was under the impression that Charade was exclusive with Tyrone. And it's like, Tyrone's definitely going to hear about this, Charade. You better not get dumped by a man in jail, okay? Don't let that happen to you and make it look worse than you already did. Moving on, Portia asks why Charade is dating someone who isn't physically available to her, and instead of answering that question, Charade likens it to women who date married men that aren't always available to them. Deflect. So moving on, Kim decided to throw shade when Andy brought up, close your legs to married men, and then Kim decided to throw shade Nene's way for no reason. Nene wasn't even talking to her, and said, oh, well, Greg was married when Nene met him, and Nene denied it. And she was like, well, what are you talking about? Me and Greg have been married for 20 years now. That's something that's so far in the past. I don't understand why you feel it necessary to criticize things that are going on in my life. We are not friends, and there's nothing that you can tell me about Greg that I don't already know after being married for so long. And so they go back and forth, and then Nene starts putting Kim's old school business all the way out there and claiming that she has dated 2 married men and that she was a stripper at a club called Oasis. And Kim, tries to deny it all, but ain't nobody seeing it for Kim, okay? It is time for Kim to be the pinata that they beat up at the birthday party, okay? But moving on, they asked Nene why she got so offended when being asked questions about Tyrone, and she was so tired of having so many questions about him. I think one of the things that we have to realize is that we see these people on TV, but we see a snippet of their lives. Every day that they go out, every interview that they do, everything that they do in public, everything that their friends and family see, they're always being asked about what's going on the show. And because we know that Nene and Tyrone had a bit of a history, I can imagine that all the people that Nene knows, all of the publicity that she had to do for the show or anything that she was doing for the escape tour, any of the promotion that she had to do, she may have been getting asked about Tyrone, and she was just tired of it at that point. So I get it. But moving on, and Nene said that she sucked Tyrone's penis out of frustration and sarcastically, but not saying that that was actually what really happened. But moving on, Andy brought up the way that he had talked to Tyrone before they went on set to do the reunion. And then he was like, well, we'll talk to Tyrone when he gets out. And you know what will be interesting? Charade is no longer on the show. She is fired from Real Housewives of Atlanta. But if in 2 years or 4 years, whenever Tyrone actually gets out of prison, it will be interesting to see if he could confirm or deny these things in person. But by that time, we will be so disinterested in him, we won't care. And the thing is, I don't know if Tyrone was using Charade for exposure on Real Housewives of Atlanta for himself, using Charade to plead his case or, give Charade a storyline so that they can make money when he got out of jail. Don't necessarily know what his motive was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't pure, though. My thoughts are that now that Charade is no longer employed by Real Housewives of Atlanta, that Tyrone will not see Charade in such a favorable light anymore because she won't be profitable to him anymore. But moving on, we talk about Kim and Kenya's relationship. We talk about how that situation got out of hand. Look, we all know how shady Charade was when Kenya had her housewarming. Now, granted, Kenya's housewarming was rushed due to production, and there were things in her house that were not finished. And Charade was very shady about it. The problem was that Charade didn't seem to be able to take that same shade when it was time for her housewarming that had been 4 years in the making, and Kim was a part of that. And that started the whole disagreement between Kim and Kenya. That's when kids were brought up, when husbands and stuff were brought up, and they relived their beef. I'm not necessarily here for it. When they showed that clip of Portia saying your whole daughter, that made me laugh so hard. I cracked up. But Kenya asked for permission to move positions on the couch. And I'm just now realizing that this is a power move. Kenya is upset that she is on the end of the couch instead of at the front of the couch where she usually is. She is being punished for not allowing Real Housewives of Atlanta to somehow profit off of her wedding. And she claims that it's so that she can see Kim better. But I think this is her way of reestablishing her relevance on the show. But moving on, Charade gets called out about being messy. And she does a bad job of defending herself regarding, Kim and Kenya's relationship and Kim saying bad stuff about Kenya and moving on. Now, Kim gets called out about baiting Kenya when they were at Nene's white party and saying that Kim came for Kenya multiple times. Kenya didn't say anything. And finally, when she did, Kim just, lost it. And Kim is saying, well, kids and husbands are off limits. And it's like the first thing you said to Kenya or about Kenya was that her husband was fake. So you can't say something is off limits and then do it and not expect a response. But anyways, Cynthia said, Kim, you came for Kenya. Kenya didn't say anything to you. She was clearly ignoring you. and it doesn't make sense for you to come after her, unwarranted. And so, of course, Kim tried to brush Cynthia off as she usually does, but Cynthia wasn't having it. Moving on, Kenya says that she is not jealous of Kim, and the fact that she has a personal assistant as a husband, and that her kids are baby's kids. I don't even think Kim knows what baby's kids are. Does Kim know what baby's kids are? I don't even know. But Kenya starts going ham, and this is where I have to say that I am not here for Kenya going this hard on Kim's family. She starts saying that Croy is an idiot for turning a hoe into a housewife, and that Kim exposed Brielle as a hoe on the internet. And it's like Charade and Candy are trying to stop her. Here's the problem that I have. This is another instance, yet another instance, where Kenya's words are going to come back and bite her in the behind. I am done with the excuses that not having a husband or not having children, it means that you were too immature to realize that talking about somebody else's husband or children is past the line and is crossing the line. Tamar uses that excuse and claims that, I'm the youngest, and because I have never experienced having a child or going through a divorce, that I get to be ignorant and insensitive and say bad things about other people's husbands or children. And it just does not work that way. As a person who does not have children, I know that saying that somebody's daughter is a hoe is going across the line. I understand that people are protective of their children. That's something that you don't have to have children to know. So Kenya just needs to stop. Moving on. It's going to come back to bite her in the behind when she welcomes this child later on in the year, whether that's by her own pregnancy, by adoption, or surrogacy, in vitro, whatever it is. When she has her own children, she is going to have to eat her words. And it's not the first time that she has had to do that. But moving on, Kim starts saying, well, this is why I've had my own show for 7 seasons. And inquiring minds want to know, what is the reason you have your show for 7 seasons? I don't know anybody that watches. I don't know anybody that says, girl, I got to go home because don't be tardy for the party is coming on. I don't know why she has her show and why she has had it for so long. Does she have the viewership? My guess is no, but apparently she does, because I don't know of any network that's going to keep a show on that long if it's not profitable for them. Yeah, that's something that I just don't understand. But moving on, Kim can't even answer the question about why she has her own show. Kim says that her beauty line, Cashmere, sold $15 million in its first year, and everybody was like, no freaking way. So I had to look up what Cashmere was. It is her line of beauty and skincare products. I don't know what the sales are. I went to the website and looked some things up. The website is super professional, so it's possible that she's making a good chunk of change off of it. But $15 million in sales in the first year, I'm not so sure. It's not impossible, but because Kim is such a liar, nobody is going to take what she says at face value. But moving on, Kim denies saying that Kenya's husband was fake. We definitely saw her say that. And Portia said this plain and simple. Kim came for Kenya because Kim was still mad at Kenya about their last interaction. So when she saw Kenya, she came for her. That's the way that it works. If you don't have your issues resolved with somebody, the next time you see them, you probably go for the jugular. Or that's the way that Kim did in that situation. And so next they talk about parenting skills. I don't care about that. And then they go back and forth. No, then they talk about Chrissy Teigen and John Legend being on Watch What Happens Live. And basically Andy was being messy and asking if he how he felt about Nene's comment about there's no music that's good enough to pimp your daughter out for. And John Legend agreed with Nene. And he, I love John Legend. John Legend's CD, his first CD, was one of the first CDs that I had ever owned. His second CD was real good too. He's kind of His style has kind of evolved into something that I don't care for as much anymore, but he always has a special place in my heart. Those of you who this is so weird. So the episode of Master of None on Netflix where John Legend sings a song at a dinner party. And when I tell you that song just grips my heart, it's a Michael Jackson song. I think it's called I Can't Help It. But the way he sings the song is just so freaking beautiful. John Legend is super talented. Nonetheless, John Legend agreed with Nene that offering your daughter services is not appropriate, regardless of how good the music is. So Andy sends Kenya back to the end of the couch, and Kenya pretends to like it. She's like, oh, gladly. You don't like that you're at the end of the couch. You don't play those games. Moving on, we see Nene already. Kim says she didn't like Nene's costume. She didn't find it in good humor. They talk about the drugs accusation, and they likened it to the rape allegation between Portia and Candy. So Kim said she asked Nene to her face if she was taking drugs, and Kim was like, and Nene said, no, you didn't. You talked to Charade about it. Kim felt that because Charade has known Nene for so long that didn't count as going behind her back. But Kim basically said that Nene was off that day at her house. It was a party where alcohol was flowing free, and she could have just been a little tipsy in her own house. The fact that Nene and Kim were not in communication for a number of years could clearly be a reason for why she didn't recognize Nene's disposition. If you and I have not been on good terms for 5 years now, you don't know how my personality has changed. You don't know how my disposition has changed. So for you to say that somebody's personality or disposition is different and that drugs is the reason for that when you and I have not been cool for 5 years is bull. And it's clear to me that whatever issues that we had that stopped us from communicating for those few years are not resolved in your head. And you can't be around me if those issues are not resolved, if you don't want a clean slate. Moving on. They talk about, Nene says that while Kim is talking about how much Nene was off, and Nene was like, well, your elevator don't go to every floor. That was funny to me. But Candy expresses her disapproval of the accusation about the drugs. And then Kim brings up when Candy said that she had a drinking problem. Now, Candy felt like if you have to have your husband drive you everywhere because you need a drink, then you have a drinking problem. Now, the whole Candy licking Kim's box thing comes up. Kim doesn't seem to realize that she is the root of all the problems on this season. Almost every problem that happened on this season was because of Kim. Almost. But Candy didn't like that Charade did not carry that bone, saying that Kim said on camera that she wouldn't let Candy lick her box. Now, Kim says it was a figure of speech. And if you go back and look at my review for that particular episode when that happened, I said that what Kim said was a figure of speech. For instance, if I say I won't let John touch me with a 10-foot pole, to me, that's the same way Kim was saying that. I feel like Kim was saying, well, I would never let Candy lick my box. That's the way I felt Kim was trying to say it, but it came out wrong. Charade took it wrong, and instead of correcting Charade, Kim felt embarrassed by it and did not clear it up when she should have on camera and had to come on Twitter afterwards to correct it. So she was still getting heat for that. But moving on, Cynthia said they need a new bone collector, which is totally true. And the fact that Charade's not on the show anymore is pretty good. And they will get a new bone collector. Somebody's got to do it. But Candy denies that anything ever happened between her and Kim. Like I said, I think it was a misunderstanding, and it was bad on Kim for not correcting it at the time. Kim says that Candy says that Kim is a fan and she's watching stuff on the show and trying to get back in, and how dare she come for her and all that kind of stuff. Moving on, we talk a little bit about Roachgate. So Kim tells us a little bit more detail. She says Brielle posted the video on Twitter, wherever, when somebody called her and said, you didn't see that bug that was in front of you? So she took the the video down and she sent the video to her mother saying, "Mom, I know how afraid you are of bugs. Don't come into this bathroom." So it was sent in a text message. She didn't think about it or anything. I mean, when you get sent things in text messages, unless somebody tells you to delete something, it probably just stays stored on your phone. Um, then Kim kept the video until Mad Day and used it to send the text out to everybody else saying that Nene's house was roach infested. Now, Kim says that roaches and racism are unrelated. And my first thought is, how would you know? Is saying that someone has roaches has racial connotations, then you have no choice but to believe me because you don't know what it's like to be a Black person and have someone say something so offensive to you. So shut up and take all the Black women's words for it that what you said has a racist connotation. Like, you can't tell me what's racist if you've never suffered from racism. Come on. Moving on. Even if the comment was not racist, we can say that it's classist. And here's the thing about Kim. I don't necessarily think that Kim is racist. I think Kim has a classist attitude. And to me, it's coming off as, how dare these Black women be more successful than me? That's the type of attitude that I get from Kim. So whether it's classism, racism, a mixture of the two, Kim is wrong. And we see those type of things in her speech and the things that she does and the way that she talks to these women. It's all over her. But moving on, y'all, Kim was saying that roaches and racism have nothing to do with each other. And so I thought of the song by, is it Aretha Franklin? Because a roach is still a roach. Baby girl, you know that's racist. But moving on, they call out Charade about the whole situation, and Kim flat out lies, claiming that she did not show Charade the video. Charade claims that she didn't think the video was going to go anywhere. Now, when she was shown the roach video, it was on camera. So Charade should have had enough bone collecting loyalty to go to Nene and say, Kim showed me a video of bugs in your house that her daughter took on camera. It may come up. You need to be aware of it, and you can address it before things get blown out of proportion. But unfortunately, because Charade doesn't have the right amount of scruples to be a fruitful bone collector, she did not do that. Portia is enjoying that Charade is in the hot seat and that Portia is not. Portia has been on the rotating spit for so long, she's just happy to see somebody else getting grills. But moving on, Kim wants to leave because everything is getting too hot. And then that's where things start getting confused. From the things that we heard and the things that we saw, they made it seem as if Kim was just so distressed by being berated by these Black women that she just got up and left. But she didn't. She said she wanted to leave, but she stayed for a little while longer. When they did not need her anymore, she got up. Andy dismissed her. She even said, "Bye, Andy." So it wasn't like she got up and left because she was being berated. She got up and left because her time was over. So I don't like when they manipulate the editing or anything like that, but whatever. Moving on. At the end, what's his name? Andy goes through everybody and asks them what they learned, whatever. So Kenya says that she didn't like blowing up in Houston and the way she made herself look. Charade says that the dynamics and all the relationships has changed. Portia coughs and Charade coughs back, and Charade is just on edge of this reunion, and I'm glad somebody pushed her off that edge and fired her behind. Okay. Charade said, I'm willing to talk about things that nobody else is willing to talk about. No, you're not, because you had several bones that you collected that you did not distribute. So, You're not ready to have those conversations, Charade. Moving on, we see Candy. She regrets that Charade didn't tell her about the licking up the box comment that she could have addressed later. But moving on, Cynthia says that she learns that she does not have to respond to everything, and that she is older and wiser. And Portia says it's been a very humbling experience, even with this large, auspicious crown on her head. Nene says that she regrets that rape joke that she made on the escape tour, and that she has learned how to handle a heckler. And it's the end of the show. The ladies all get roses. They all say goodbye. They all feel relieved that it is over with. Everybody has a happy disposition until one of the producers comes out and says, I need Andy and a camera because Kim is upset. Now, Kim feels as if the only questions that she was asked by Andy were all negative things. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Croy feels that Andy did not use his power appropriately to kind of stop the ladies from coming for Kim. Now, Andy said exactly what I was feeling in that moment. There were no positive questions for you, Kim, because you didn't contribute anything positive to the show. Every interaction that you had on camera was at the expense of like half the cast members. If you weren't talking about how stupid Cynthia was and how beautiful she was, without having brains, or if you didn't talk about Nene and how disgusting her house was, or if you didn't talk about Candy and how she was, or you didn't correct the statement that you made about Candy licking your box, or talking about how Kenya had a fake husband. If you get on camera and you speak negatively about these women at the reunion, that's when you answer for your sins. That's what you do. And when you speak negatively about all the people on the cast, except for like one or two people, what the frick do you expect? You have to answer for that, and they are going to have a problem with that. Duh. Moving on. Kim says she basically had a whirlwind of Black women coming at her all at once. And she said something along the lines of racism being BS. Something like racism didn't exist, or it doesn't exist now because of social media. Or was she saying, oh, you know what? She might have been saying, because I guess back in the day when Kim was on the show, they may have tried to claim that she was racist and that it didn't go anywhere because there was no social media. I don't know. But whatever she said was a little suspect. I'm not going to get into that too much. But, I usually have mixed feelings about Andy. But when Andy told Kim that there was nothing positive about her presence on the show, I was like, Andy, I messed with you for that reason because you did not kiss her butt and you were honest with her about her presence on the show. Nothing about it was positive. Nothing that she did on the show could have twisted anything to make it feel like it was positive at all. So, that's what you get, Kim. So next time on Real Housewives of Atlanta, next Sunday, they're going to be doing a 10-year anniversary special for Real Housewives of Atlanta, recounting all of the best moments from the 10 years of Real Housewives of Atlanta. I will be watching it, but I will not be doing a review. So this is the last time that you guys will see me talk about Real Housewives of Atlanta. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me your thoughts about what happened on this episode, this final episode on part 3 of the reunion. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out, home slices.